Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to our behind the scenes part 3.
Four.
Part 4. Oh, yeah. Oh boy, yeah. I've also done my part.
Yeah.
And we have one player left.
Yeah.
That's Dominique. You've played.
Yes. Gruff.
Adra. That's it.
Yes.
Adra or Adra.
Juli.
Yeah. Both is fine.
As well as Gruff.
Yeah.
Which will be an interesting part of the conversation. So, can you tell us a bit about one of them?
Definitely.
Or both.
Yeah, I think I kind of went about the process kind of similarly to what Gerda did, where I started with my witch trial character, and I knew that I didn't want to play like this average woman who just lives her life and ran into trouble. Also because I already live a regular female and I don't want to play that. So I knew that age-wise I wanted to do an extreme, like either like someone who's really old or really young. And I felt like the stereotype of like an old witch was so straightforward that I wanted to take it in the other direction. So hence the child. And as soon as that idea came up, I also realized that for me it's a good contrast with what I normally play. Because my other current characters are all like these rowdy people. Like I play a pirate who loves drinking. I play a barbarian who is stupid and loves drinking. And I play a goblin, Way of the Drunken Master, who also loves drinking. Yeah. So we kind of have this trifecta of just, playing this extremely loud character. And I felt like it would be a nice contrast for me to play someone who was like more quiet and more like turned inwards, and I felt like this like child character could be a very good one for that. And I keep trying to remember what the series is, but I watched the series like I think a couple months ago of this like half human, half deer boy who was living in the forest with his father. I forgot what it's.
Yeah, I know it's on Netflix, not sponsored, but it's on Netflix.
Yeah. I forget the name.
I'll look it up. You just started.
Yes, thank you. It's been in my brain for the past couple of minutes where I was like, I need to know the name. But yeah, that was an inspiration for making this kid like basically forested, hermited, because I was like, yeah, if this kid is already being caught for witchcraft because she's having seizures, like how did nobody catch her when she was 3, for example, versus whatever age she was now. Like she's kind of ageless in that sense. I did specify an age in the beginning, but after a while I kind of let it go. Also in collaboration with the group, we were like, yeah, just let's leave it open. Yes, Sweet Tooth. It's a great series. I loved it. But that also is a boy who lives in the forest with his dad. And I kind of grabbed onto that, where the background was that at some point she did start getting the seizures, and this dad was like, okay, we cannot stay in the regular community because then they're going to notice and then they're going to get her in trouble. And similar to what happens in the series, after a while this kid grows up and they're like, but what's beyond? Like, my dad told me not to go beyond, but what would be there? And it's this natural curiosity in kids. So of course she goes out and she goes looking for what's beyond the forest, and she ends up in this little town with her pet frog, and she is immediately seen as this weird kid. Like, she's covered in dirt and grime, and she loves playing with animals, and she's always climbing trees, and not like the regular kids who go to school probably, or whatever was the norm back then. And yeah, I can imagine this kid immediately getting like sussed out by the other kids, like, you're a weirdo, you know, and getting chased around. And then especially when in such a stressful situation, I can imagine the seizure would be triggered. And that's basically where the story picks up. Like, she just went out because she wanted to see the world and care for her pet frog, and she wanted to share that with the group. And these kids basically just bullied her into a seizure, which then got her caught for witchcraft, because who's this weird forest kid who's convulsing on the ground, you know? Yeah. So that's basically where that concept came from. And in the pet frog specifically comes from my sister, because she was always very much into nature, and yeah, she would be in these Oh, what is a sloot in English?
Oh boy.
Yeah. You have these little waterways, basically, between fields in the Netherlands. Gerda is already looking it up for me.
I need to know now.
Yeah.
A ditch.
A ditch. Well, great.
Okay, fair enough.
My sister would go into the ditches between the fields and she would catch frogs and kiss them because she would want to know if there was a prince.
Oh boy.
It was so typically my sister that I was like, yeah, I love that part of our family history. Like, I always thought that was the coolest thing. I never had the guts to do it myself, but I always thought it was cool that my sister did. So that's where the pet frog came from as well. Yeah, then I had like Juli or Julia, like she went through so many names. I think I started with Meredith because I was watching Grey's Anatomy and it was the first name that popped up. And then I was like, no, it's like too adult. And then I went to Melody because I have been in the process of writing a book and one of the kids in the book is also called Melody. And I was like, oh, it fits. And then I was like, wait, no, it sounds too much like Melanie, which is one of the other players. So like literally in front of the door this morning, I was like, I need a different name. And then the name of one of my favorite teachers from a master's degree popped up in my head.
Nice.
And she's called Juli.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I can make that into Julia as like a Dutch name. So hence that, it was just the first thing that popped in my mind. But yeah, as soon as I had Juli, I was like, okay, and now I need to make another character. And I was like, let's not go for like the angry ruffian again. So basically class-wise, because I knew that Gerda was playing a druid, I had for myself 3 choices left, which was a barbarian or a fighter or a ranger.
Did you pick the right one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, amazing.
Yeah. And I was like, I already play a barbarian. I don't want to do that again. And a fighter felt too generic to me. So then I was left with a ranger. And I was like, well, okay, I've never made a ranger before. I don't know what they can do. And I dove into that. And I'm this awful min-maxer. When you give me, like, make a character, I go and I Google, like, what's the best character? Or what's the best subclass? Or what's the best companion? And that's how I ended up on Beastmaster. That was in the list, like, way at the top. And I was like, wait, we already have this kid that loves animals.
Yes.
And then I was like, yeah, no, even if it's not the best, which apparently it is very good. I didn't know. But like it clicked and I was like, I have to. Then I Googled, of course, what's the best companion? Because of course I did. And the wolf was very high up on it. And I actually have a dog myself who has like wolf-like markings. She's a Swedish Valhund, if you're curious. So I was like, yeah, no, that fits. If I'd known that Gruff would be this overpowered, I'm not sure I would have made the same choice again. But story-wise, it worked out so well.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Because it made it extra painful, like, because he had been such a good boy.
Yeah.
And then, you know?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and then also character-wise, I was like, I also chose, like, the giants and the forest, because I was like, yeah, if I then decided to pull her closer to Juli, in the sense that, oh, Juli is super into the forest and the animals, I will do the same for my previous character, because I'm not sure if we mentioned it, but the idea was also that they were related over like a long distance.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have not mentioned that.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. So there was this family relation over decades, like eons. I'm not even entirely sure, but long times, basically.
Yeah.
And
millennia.
Millennia.
Yeah.
That's the right word. I forgot the word for millennia. But basically, like a very long time. But I liked keeping some of the elements in there. So this love for nature and animals. So yeah, that became a very logical thing, and I really enjoyed playing that type of character where it was still kind of this rough in your face type person that I tend to play, but also with this feeling for animals and the people around them, like not necessarily someone who opens up easily. I never really do that with my characters. I always want there to be some kind of reason that they tell someone something or do something for them.
Yep.
I like that in my characters, but yeah, I don't know. That's basically how I ended up with this selection array of characters and companions, basically. Yeah.
That's very cool. I wrote down the toad and the wolf as well.
Yeah.
You had 2 characters with beasts, like a pet.
Yeah.
And then a child with like a tiny pet, and then a full-fledged ranger with like a massive wolf.
Yeah.
I thought that was very cool.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you said that it's you don't open up much as characters.
Yeah.
But you played a child.
Yeah.
Which must, like, my God, like that must have been pretty hard at times to like really immerse yourself in that mindset. Mm-hmm. Because a child, I reckon, opens up a little bit more, and I felt like you did that.
Yeah.
What was that like? Like, did you make any conscious decisions as to play a child, or what was it like?
Yeah, for me, it was a conscious decision to go for the character that was more like innocent and open, and basically the polar opposite of what I usually play. Also to challenge myself, because I think after a while, when you play D&D for a long time, you find out what you're comfortable with, and you just copy-paste that character into different backgrounds, basically.
Yep.
So I was like, let's not do that every single time. And I have done some acting in the past, so I think that helps. And also because I write stories, I've practiced stepping into different like perspectives.
Yep.
So I basically just tried to channel vulnerability in a sense. Vulnerability and innocence, where the world is just new and exciting and you're still learning about everything. And also when the devil came by, I'm like, this girl lived in the woods. She probably didn't even have that much connection to faith or anything like that. So I was like, what's a devil? And I'm like, she wouldn't know. Yeah. Even if she was like, her dad did teach her some faith, for example. I was like, yeah, you're not going to tell your kid about the devil when they're super young. Like, you're going to tell them about that later, about like sin and horrible things. And this kid was very sheltered. So that's what I tried to challenge there, or channel there as well. This just open innocence about the world as it is. And it's refreshing to do that as well. I really enjoyed it as well, to look at the world from that perspective for a bit. Yeah,
I can imagine. I'd find it very hard, but like I could tell you're into acting, basically.
Yeah.
That was very cool to respond to as well. I really enjoyed that.
Almost made myself cry at some point.
Yeah. I was very worried.
Yeah. No, I'm good, but I'm a very emotional person, which helps in acting.
Oh, yeah.
But it also happens that sometimes the line between my own emotions and the character that I'm playing, it blurs so much that I just physically feel the emotion in my body. Yeah. And that's, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, we've cried during sessions.
Yeah,
it's so like much. Just being your character.
Yeah.
Great.
And I mean, we talked about Gruff and his death, but what was your favorite moment?
Actually, not the part with Gruff.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me.
I really did like what it added to the story, but I liked the ending with Nilu very much, where I could connect all of these little dots with each other of this development that I'd been going through with the character from the start, with this little doll, and the fact that she was starting to see giants as people, just big people, but still people. And I think, I'm not entirely sure, I think Arvin said something at some point about how not all giants are evil and they have the same nuance as people. And the fact that we got that proven to us, that people can be horrible too, by Gruff getting killed, like story-wise, it was a great element, but the fact that I could then put that into motion in that conversation was something I've never experienced before, and it was so, like, it just all clicked into place. The death of Gruff suddenly had this purpose, where she, as a person, it made her realize, like, if all the giants are the same, and then you can say the same about all the people, and then I would be just as bad as the person who killed my beloved dog. And that for her was the line. That for her was this border of like, if that's true, then that would also be true, and it can't be.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. It was this role play thing that just happened in my brain too, and I was like, yes, it just all fell into place. And that, to me, I loved that.
You use that as an argument against Nilu as well.
Yeah.
Like that, exactly that argument. Yeah. And then I made you roll, and you rolled a crit.
Yes. It was so good.
It had to be this way. Like,
yeah. Exactly. It just, I don't know why, but everything just fell into place there. And it was so nice. Because I was also looking at the clock, because I have the controls in front of me. And I'm the one who keeps an eye on the clock. I also know that we have a minute left. Less even. And I knew that we had like, I think 4 or 5 minutes to end everything. And then Nilu showed up and I was like, oh no, we're going to have to do like a separate episode of like 5 minutes of ending it. Yeah. And then this whole conversation just played out so perfectly. It was amazing. I loved it. Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
this was fun, guys.
It was
loved it.
So for sure. I had such a good time.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Like,
thank you, Derek, as well.
Oh,
Yes.
well,
Oh my gosh.
of course. So this is the last episode.
For our first podcast.
For our first podcast, at the very least.
we hope you like it and perhaps maybe share it or...
Yeah.
That would be great. And if you have any feedback or thoughts, feel free to share that.
Yep.
We'd love to hear, as a matter of fact, if you guys want to hear more, if this is something you're into, because we loved doing it.
Yes. The idea of going home and returning to the real world feels so surreal at this moment because we've been in this bubble the entire day. We filmed all of this in one go.
Yeah.
And it feels like I'm in this bubble of just amazing storytelling and I'm going to step out into the real world and it doesn't feel right.
I've also been thinking, like, because those barbarians, let's call them that, they're still out there. They knew that we freed those giants.
You're opening up a new storyline.
I know, but it's like, that's what I was thinking with Jurgen as well. It's like, I need to go back because what if they're assaulting our village now, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, stuff like that. Yeah.
I want to meet Jurgen's baby.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I'll be thinking about this world for a while.
I want to fight with Nilu over who is going to be the village elder.
Yeah, and I want to find a new little baby animal that I can nurture and
yes.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, definitely.
Well,
so hopefully we'll see you, dear listener. I keep wanting to say viewers. Dear listener, in a next one, and hopefully during one of the events from Mythmakers. But for now, this will be it, and we hope you'll make lovely stories yourself back home.
Yes. Hopefully it inspired you to do something as unique as this.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. See you next time.